Millionaire Detective Balance, Unlimited, begins by showing a man named Haru Kato, who works as a detective in Japan's Modern Crimes Prevention Task Force and is assigned to help the 1st Division of the Japanese police secure an auto show being held on a major street in the area. As several state guests, including a prince from the Iberra Emirates, were scheduled to attend the exhibition, the 1st Division requested additional personnel to secure the route the prince would take. With his partner, a young man named Shinoshu Kame, Kato rushed there by car. Arriving there, they met their junior, a young man named Ryo Hoshino, who had now joined the 1st Division. Kato, who used to be part of the 1st Division, paid no heed to Hoshino and his mate's demeaning words because he had been transferred to another unit lower in level than the 1st Division. Kato then forcibly pulled out Hoshino's earphones and found out they were facing a terrorism threat on the prince. Elsewhere, Yoko and Hiroshi, a young couple trapped in debt, are scouting in front of a jewelry store, where they intend to commit a robbery. Because Hiroshi has a timid nature, they enter a shop that is not guarded by security personnel and carry out their actions in disguise. But as it turned out, the shop was just a shop selling chocolate, so they didn't get what they wanted. At the same time, Kato and Hoshino received information about the location of the bomb that the terrorists wanted to detonate, which turned out to be placed in a white van, which happened to be parked not far from the chocolate shop where Yoko and Hiroshi were. When the lovers were out of there, they suddenly ran into Kame and fired shots at him because he panicked before rushing to flee from there in a white van with a ticking time bomb inside. Hoshino and his team immediately rushed after the white van, while Kato then approached Kame, who was only shot with a gun filled with red paint. Not long after, there was a commotion nearby as a black luxury car drove recklessly and crashed into all the cars in front of it. Seeing a boy who fell down and had no time to save himself, Kato immediately stepped forward to protect him. Because Kato blocked the road so suddenly, the luxury car driver lost control of his car and ended up crashing into a power pole by the roadside. He was very annoyed with the car driver for driving recklessly, then scolded the driver of the car, a man named Daisuke Kambe, who turned out to be a detective from the Japanese police. Kambe was driving in a hurry because he wanted to catch the white van with the bomb inside. Because his car was damaged after the collision, he rushed to find another car capable of traveling at high speed. Kambe then approached the prince's luxury sports car and told the prince that he wanted to buy the car right away. Hearing this, the prince laughed out loud and underestimated him, who would not be able to buy the car because the price was very high. The prince apparently bought the car for 300 million yen. However, he issued a digital check worth 1 billion yen and transferred the funds to the prince. After the transaction was completed in a matter of seconds, Kambe climbed into the luxury sports car, along with Kato, who swiftly occupied the passenger seat and spurred him on at high speed to chase the white van. With the help of his assistant, nicknamed Hyusuke, Kambe could easily hijack the city's traffic security system and steer the white van onto the bridge to trap them. After securing the bridge from other passing vehicles, he pushed the white van to the edge of the bridge, intending to drop it into the river to absorb the impact of the bomb explosion. Hiroshi was very scared, then got out of the car, leaving his girlfriend, who could only cry in frustration. Because the bomb would explode in a few minutes, Kato rushed over to the white van to help Yoko. In the end, the white van fell into the river, and the bomb explosion was suppressed so as not to cause panic. And Kato suffered minor injuries because Kambe did nothing, instead letting him fall into the river. The next day, when Kato arrived at the office, he was surprised by Kambe's arrival, who had already joined his team. He doesn't seem to like Kambe's presence on his team because, according to him, Kambe is just an arrogant man who likes to show off his wealth and spend his money. However, Kambe doesn't seem to mind it because he is rich and can get everything he wants because he has a lot of money. The next day, when Kato and Kambe came home from shopping to buy office supplies, they met street performers who showed their actions on the side of the road. Kato paused to look at their performances and appreciated their efforts to make a living. However, Kambe immediately found out that the two men were users of the mescaline drug and arrested them. He then interrogated one of them to get information about the drug dealer who sold them the drug. With his advanced featured glasses, Kambe could tell when and where he had been during the previous week. Because the drug user was adamant and refused to tell him anything, he finally came up with the most effective way to solve all problems, offering them some money. On the other hand, Kato's partner, a middle-aged man named Chosuke Nakamoto, who was interrogating the other drug user, manipulated his innermost feelings by being sympathetic and managed to get information about the drug dealer, who turned out to be a male model named Izaki Yuta. After that, Kato introduces Kambe to one of his friends, a man named Mida, who works as a freelance reporter. Thanks to information from Mida, they managed to get Yuta's address and spied on him. After surveillance for a few days, Kato found out that Yuta often spent time with the gravure idols who were beautiful and handsome from the Millennium Entertainment Company. One night, Kato and the others saw Yuta, who had just finished having dinner with some women. However, he recognized that one of the women was not a gravure idol, and he became attracted to her because she looked so elegant and beautiful. After that, the three saw Yuta doing a drug transaction with a man. However, when Kato was about to catch the man red-handed, Kambe stopped him and asked him to let Yuta go so that he could direct them to the drug dealer. After days of reconnaissance, Kato finally gets information about Yuta, who turns out to be sponsored by the organized crime group, Gondawara Gumi. Mida then advised Kato to go home and take a shower before continuing their investigation. However, Kato accidentally saw a woman with long black hair who had spent time with Yuta. Knowing that the opportunity did not come twice, he immediately followed her, who left in a luxury sports car. He continued to drive, following her, but he lost track of her when she drove her car into a forest area on the outskirts of town. Because his car ran out of fuel right in the middle of the forest, Kato walked and found a magnificent and luxurious building in the middle of the forest. He was curious, came to the magnificent building, and was very surprised when he met Kambe. Unexpectedly, the magnificent and luxurious building turned out to be Kambe's residence, and the long-haired woman seen with Yuta was none other than Kambe's relative, Suzu, who was asked by Kambe to spy on Yuta up close. Suzu tells Kato that the Gondawaragumi is headed by a man named Umju, who plans to have a drug party at a luxury hotel soon. Umju will also invite famous celebrities and gravure idols. Hearing this, Kambe then calculated that he only needed to spend 2 billion yen to catch Umju and destroy the syndicate. However, Kato, who has a high sense of justice, becomes irritated because Kambe always uses his unlimited money to get things done. Kato hurried away from there and contacted Mida to access the drug party that was going to be held by Umju. Long story short, he managed to infiltrate the party disguised as one of the guests and stole Umju's cell phone while he was off guard. However, his actions were soon caught by security officers. When he was almost pressed, someone wearing a mascot costume arrived and immediately helped him. They then climbed onto the roof of the building to escape from the pursuit of Umju's henchmen. Kato thought that the person wearing the mascot costume was Kambe, but as it turned out, it was Mida who had been paid by Kambe to infiltrate the party. When they were surrounded by Umju's men and couldn't escape from there, Suzu and he arrived there using a helicopter. After the purchase transaction for the hotel building was completed, Kambe fired the sleeping gas, which caused everyone to fall asleep. Then, the police finally managed to arrest the drug dealer. After that, Umju, Yuta, and the criminal syndicate Gondawaragumi were finally completely destroyed. A few days later, Kato was asked by his superior to attend an international crime seminar in Hong Kong with Kambe. After returning from Hong Kong, Kambe took Kato and Suzu to meet his grandmother, Kikuko. Kato was greeted very friendly by her, who begged him to be willing to guide Kambe in doing his job as a police officer. He said that Kambe had always worked well. However, he openly stated that he disliked Kambe's habit of always solving every problem with his money. Kikuko then warned her grandson about his habit and asked him to heed Kato's advice, who is his senior. After that, Kikuko introduces Kato to her butler, Hattori, who he thinks Hattori is Kambe's assistant who always helps him. But then, Suzu tells him that Kambe's assistant is Hyusuke, and he is an artificial intelligent. Sometime later, on an official trip to Nagoya, Kato meets a young man who seems frustrated because he failed the college entrance exam he wanted. Kato tried to comfort him and encourage him. After arriving at his destination train station, he said goodbye to that young man and got off the train. However, shortly after Kato left the platform and was about to leave the station, he was surprised by an announcement mentioning an emergency situation on the train. He rushed to the location and found that the young man sitting next to him was holding hostage several middle-aged women who were about to attend a concert by their idol singer group. Not long after, Hoshino and his partners in the first division arrived and told Kato to withdraw. When he refuses to withdraw, Hoshino recalls the events that caused him to resign from the first division. At that time, Kato, Hoshino's senior in the first division, gets a mission to handle robbery and hostage-taking at a bank. He managed to bring down the robber, but then, a woman bank employee picked up the gun belonging to the robber and pointed it at him because it turned out she was a gang of robbers. Then he was forced to shoot her. However, after the incident, he felt very guilty and resigned from the first division. Back to the present, it turns out that Kambe has arrived there, and together, they then infiltrate the scene. With Hyusuke's help, they could hijack the First Division team's communication channel and discover that the hostage-taking was broadcast live. Hoshino, acting as a negotiator, tries to convince the young man to stop the hostage-taking while the SWAT team prepares for an ambush. Upon learning that, Kato, who was sure that the young man would not dare to hurt anyone, then infiltrated the train with Kambe's help. He then asked Hyusuke to hack into the young man's cell phone and found an email explaining the purpose behind the hostage-taking. He then entered the train and confronted the young man about his purpose of taking the hostage action so that he could get some money to pay for the treatment of his younger sibling in the United States. At the same time, the middle-aged women who were the hostages were already getting restless because the concert would start in 30 minutes, and they would be late if they didn't leave soon. They then became angry and tried to attack the young man. However, Kambe had already anticipated this and brought an idol singer group to the station to entertain their hostage fans. Shortly afterward, Kambe approached the young man, promised he would take care of his younger sibling's medical expenses, and asked him to turn himself in. The situation became safe and under control again, and no one was injured in the hostage incident. Sometime later, Kambe, on leave, gets a call from Kato asking for help in finding a pet dog belonging to a boy who went missing while they were playing in the park. As Kambe was in a hurry to leave the house, he forgot to bring his wallet and cell phone and decided to stay at Kato's house until they found the missing dog. On the other hand, Suzu seemed worried about Kambe because he didn't come home, and this was the first time he spent the night outside without carrying a penny. Long story short, Kambe finally brought the boy together with a dog that was very similar to his dog. He then revealed to Kato that the boy's dog had actually been killed by a car, and he bought a dog similar to his dog so that the boy would not feel sad. He then gave the pet shop bill to Kato and asked him to pay it. After that, Kambe returns home and surprises Suzu and her grandmother by making food for them, which he learned at Kato's house during the night. The next day, Kato and his team have a mission to escort a president from a neighboring country who is visiting Japan to take care of a project worth billions of yen, where they will work closely with the First Division team on the mission. However, Kambe and Nakamoto did not participate in the mission. Unexpectedly, it turns out that he is the person who will cooperate with the president on behalf of his grandmother, who is the head of the Kambe family company. The president told Kambe that he was met with opposition from local residents who did not want the project to be implemented because the project's location is in a historic area whose existence means a lot to the residents. For this reason, the president asked for help from the Kambe family, which owns a company engaged in security and producing weapons, including combat vehicles. On the other hand, guarding outside the building, Kato and his team got lunch delivered from a fancy restaurant and thought their superior had sent it. They then distributed a portion of lunch to a male janitor who happened to be there. However, Hoshino and his partner arrived, claiming the lunch was his. The claim was justified by Kato's superior calling that he forgot to send lunch and asked Kato to buy instant noodles for his team. A male guard named Ricardo went into the meeting hall and told his superiors that something very serious had happened. Knowing this was a very dangerous threat, the chief guard rushed to secure the president and Kambe into a safe armored bunker. Upon arrival, the chief guard informed him that the embassy chef had been found murdered. With the help of Hyusuke, Kambe then played the CCTV camera footage and found out that Ricardo was the one who had killed the chef. Not only that, after killing the chef, Ricardo then placed a bomb containing poison gas in the bunker. Kambe, the president, and the chief guard trapped in the bunker could not contact anyone because Ricardo had cut the communication line. Meanwhile, outside the building, Kato sees Ricardo, who jumps over the fence to escape. Not just standing still, he rushed after Ricardo and managed to corner him on the roof of the building. Ricardo, who apparently is a local resident who opposes the president's project, chooses to throw away the bunker keys and ends his own life by jumping from the top of the building. Inside the bunker, Kambe asked Hyusuke to analyze the bomb because it was Kambe's company that produced the device to assemble the bomb. However, Hyusuke said he did not have the authority to access the information. Knowing that the president was trapped in a bunker that could only be opened from the outside, Kato told one of his colleagues, a woman named Mahoro Saiki, that Ricardo had thrown the star-shaped bunker key into the sewer. Saiki, who realized that the janitor she met had a similar key, told Kato. He immediately rushed to save Kambe and the president just before the bomb exploded and poison gas spread inside the bunker. After the incident, Nakamoto was seen who was not far from the scene, even though that day he applied for leave due to an emergency. He also appeared to be investigating the bombing incident by examining bomb devices and signal jammers that had been secured by the police. He found that some of these devices were manufactured by Mizuho Future Technologies, which has close ties to the company owned by the Kambe family. However, for some reason, the police even covered this fact. Realizing that he cannot uncover the truth behind the case alone, Nakamoto asks Kato for help in investigating the case. The first step they took was intercepting a high-ranking Mizuho Future Technologies company named Mrs. Imura and trying to get information from her. However, Mrs. Imura, knowing that Kato and Nakamoto were conducting an illegal investigation because they could not show official police documents, then called their superior, so the two detectives were forced to withdraw. Unexpectedly, Kambe was also investigating Mrs. Imura and framed her as if there had been an accident so that he had a good reason to arrest her and interrogate her at the police station. However, Mrs. Imura uses her right to remain silent until her lawyer arrives, then Kambe asks about her company instead. He then asked Hyusuke to hack into her computer, and for the first time, the AI refused to provide the information he wanted, as if someone had prevented him from accessing the information. This made Kambe even more suspicious about what was going on and whether his family was involved in all this. Since Kambe had failed in his attempt to interrogate Mrs. Imura regarding the device that had exploded in the bunker, Nakamoto finally intervened and took her to the waiting room. He then threatened to harm her daughter if she still insisted on silence. Not wanting anything to happen to her daughter, she finally gave in and promised to tell him. However, before Mrs. Imura can reveal everything, she dies because of the bomb explosion in her car. Seeing this, Nakamoto also assumes that Kambe is the mastermind behind the car explosion and thinks he did all that to protect his family's dirty actions. The scene then switches to the past, showing Nakamoto, who was still a detective in Division 1, along with Katsuhiro Take, who currently serves as head of Division 1. At that time, they were assigned to investigate the murder case of a woman named Sayuri Kambe, who was none other than Daisuke Kambe's mother. The murder was disguised as if it was a robbery. However, Nakamoto, a reliable detective, concludes that the murder may have been carried out by Sayuri's husband, Shigemaru Kambe, Kambe's father. It didn't stop there. Sayuri's mother-in-law, Kikuko, was uncooperative when Nakamoto and Take interrogated her as if she was hiding something to protect her son. Even so, with his wits, Nakamoto got a few clues stored in a photo album belonging to the Kambe family. However, before he investigated further, the clues suddenly disappeared somewhere. At the same time, he received a notification that Shigemaru Kambe was found to have ended his life and left a will stating that he was the one who killed Sayuri. Back to the present, Kato finally finds out about Nakamoto's past and also a little about the Kambe family from his superior. Because of that, he and Nakamoto rushed to Kambe's house to conduct further investigations. He broke into Kambe's house, who had been on leave for some time since the incident that killed Mrs. Imura. When he finally met with Kato and Nakamoto, Kambe revealed that his reason for becoming a detective in the police was to uncover the case of his mother's murder because, according to him, his father was not the perpetrator of the murder. Elsewhere, Take, who was about to go home, was suddenly attacked with a poisonous gas that made him collapse unconscious. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked by his past memories related to the investigation of Sayuri Kambe's death that suddenly appeared in his mind. Not only that, Take was confused by the mixed events of the past and present until finally, he realized that it was all just a hallucination. He woke up after a very blinding light shone right into his eyes. That was Kambe's plan to frame him and bring him to Kambe's house for interrogation. Suzu then explained that what happened to Take just now was the effect of using the latest technology to search for information through one's past memories. However, Kambe and Nakamoto have not received any information from Take, so they decide to lock him in the dungeon because he has proven his involvement in missing clues about Sayuri Kambe's death case and the incident that killed Mrs. Imura. When Kambe and the others began to reinvestigate the case of his mother's death, and was trying to find out through the data on the police computer and Kambe's family company, they were surprised by the act of Hyusuke, which suddenly deleted several important files regarding the information. However, they managed to get a clue about a substance called adalium, which was the result of research from Kambe's parents. Because of that, Kambe was reminded of the past when his parents quarreled about important research they were doing in the special lab owned by the Kambe family. Kato managed to find clues about the lab's location in an old photo of Kambe with his parents. Kambe, who finally found out the location of the lab, then rushed to go there with Kato. Meanwhile, Nakamoto tries to persuade Take to reveal everything to find the real killer of Sayuri Kambe. Long story short, Kambe manages to infiltrate the specially guarded Kambe family's lab while Kato distracts the security officers. But at the same time, Suzu told them that someone had infiltrated the Kambe family's residence and managed to open access to the door leading to the dungeon where Nakamoto and Take are currently located. She explained that she couldn't do much to stop the intruder because the intruder had authority over her, which meant that the intruder was one of Kambe's family. However, Kambe chose to continue his mission, and he was shocked when he saw the CCTV camera footage showing that his father, Shigemaru Kambe, was still alive. Meanwhile, at the Kambe family's mansion, the intruder attacks Suzu and kills Nakamoto and Take because they already know the truth. Knowing that his superiors had died and Suzu was injured, Kato suddenly felt angry and disappointed at Kambe, who was more concerned with his mission than saving his colleagues. A few days after the incident, Kato and his team seemed deeply saddened by the death of Nakamoto, one of their most respected colleagues. But then, their superior, a man named Kiyomizo, tells them that Nakamoto left a clue for them, which is a dice that is an eavesdropper. When Kato and his team were about to carry out further investigations with instructions from Nakamoto, Hoshino and the 1st Division team arrived to arrest Kato, named a suspect in the Nakamoto and Take murder cases. Meanwhile, his team was asked not to act rashly because the 1st Division team would monitor their movements. However, with Kiyomizo's ingenuity, Kame and his partners managed to escape from the 1st Division team's surveillance to investigate with the help of a bug left by Nakamoto. On the other hand, Suzu, who managed to track down Shigemaru's whereabouts through CCTV cameras, then told Kambe and asked him to be careful because confronting Shigemaru was quite dangerous. Sure enough, when Kambe got into the car that Shigemaru was driving earlier, he was attacked with poison gas which spread inside the car. However, Kambe had anticipated it and finally managed to survive. Suzu then finds information about a man named Franz Vinsky, whom Shigemaru met at that place. Franz is an international arms dealer with experience as a professional bodyguard. Meanwhile, Kato's team, who managed to find the frequency of the sound waves embedded in the wiretapping device Nakamoto had deliberately placed on Shigemaru Kambe, managed to locate his whereabouts and then informed Kato, who was eventually released by Hoshino. At the same time, Kambe, who lost track of Shigemaru, then used his unlimited amount of money to make everyone use his cell phone camera to track his whereabouts. That way, it didn't take long for Suzu to track down Shigemaru and find him, who turned out to be on a large ship anchored in the harbor. When they arrived, the ship started sailing, and Hoshino told Kambe that Kato had infiltrated the ship. With his sophisticated equipment, Kambe followed Kato to infiltrate the ship and managed to bring down Franz. However, Shigemaru turns out to have known Kambe's arrival and activated adalium on the large antenna, which messed up all the electronics there, including Kato's cell phone and Kambe's sophisticated equipment. Franz then took advantage of the opportunity by firing adalium's gun at Kambe and managed to bring him down. Kato, who saw Kambe being pushed by Franz, helped him escape. When they finally managed to escape from there, Suzu sent several small drones to give Kambe a new communication tool so they could communicate again. After that, Suzu informed them that adalium's main energy source came from the ship's engine room. However, upon arrival in the engine room, Kambe is confronted by Franz, who seems to have difficulty dealing with him. Seeing Kato holding a gun, Kambe then asked him to shoot the pipe that carried energy from adalium throughout the ship. But because Kato was still traumatized by past events, he trembled slightly as he was about to do so. After Kambe convinces him he can do it, Kato finally manages to shoot the pipe and detonates Adalium's energy source, allowing the electronics to function normally again. But on the other hand, the explosion left most of the equipment on board badly damaged, so the ship is expected to explode soon. Because his advanced equipment is working again, Kambe can easily defeat France. However, when they were about to capture Shigemaru, he turned out to have taken over the Hyusk and ordered the AI assistant to attack Kambe so he could escape from there. Even though Shigemaru managed to escape, Suzu had sent a mini-drone to follow him, so they could find out his whereabouts, who turned out to be hiding in a special lab of the Kambe family. When Kato and Kambe arrived, Shigemaru apparently had run away, so Kambe asked Kato to split up and look for clues. Kambe managed to find a secret document belonging to his father, while Kato found a secret passage. After Kato traced the path, he arrived at a subway line. Long story short, they ended up boarding the subway, which turned out to be leading to the residence of Kambe's grandmother, Kikuko. After giving Kambe's parents a secret document containing research on Adalium to Suzu, Kambe and Kato finally met Shigemaru, who had been waiting for their arrival. However, Kambe said he was not his father because he was left-handed. Shigemaru then broke his own disguise and revealed his true identity, which turned out to be Hattori, Kikuko's butler. However, the mastermind behind all this was Kikuko Kambe, as Hattori only followed her orders. She then tells about Kambe's parents fighting over Adalium. Kambe encounters his grandmother, who admits she wanted to keep Adalium as a family secret so they could profit from it. Kambe's mother, Sayuri, wanted to broadcast Adalium's existence to the public, so Kikuko had Hattori assassinate her, and for years, has kept Shigemaru prisoner. On the other hand, Kato tries to catch Hattori, but the butler resists and then shoots him in the thigh. However, the wound is nothing comparable to the butler's severe injuries. He finally manages to catch Hattori, armed with the knowledge that the servant had orders not to kill Kato and the critical injuries he still suffered. Meanwhile, Kambe almost orders Suzu to release the data publicly but hesitates when Kikuko points out that Adalium could be used to create weapons of mass destruction. Kato, bleeding heavily, trips onto Suzu's computer and accidentally releases the data anyway. Amused at the result, Kambe arrests Kikuko. 2 weeks later, a recovering Kato refuses an offer to return to First Division, preferring his unit, Modern Crimes, while Kambe helps Shigemaru begin recovering. Modern Crimes become much more efficient after Kambe gives them Hyusk. Meanwhile, Adalium is now becoming public. It changes the world dramatically. It even starts appearing on the black market, with Kambe and Kato working to prevent its power abuse. Stopping another black market meeting, Kato again falls into the river as an amused Kambe watches, just like the first time they met. The anime ends.
How was the video? We hope it was good. If so, please check these videos. Also, please comment down your thoughts and your suggestions for future videos. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing now to show the support to our channel. We hope to see you soon with another video right in this channel. Have a nice day.